All right, everybody, welcome. I'm so excited. I'm sorry about the delay, but good things come to those who wait, right? All right. So listen, we have a very incredible presentation today. I feel more than honored to have such an icon. But like I always say, uh, there is no need for any formal introductions when someone lives a life that speaks for them. All right. So since we've had you wait for a little while, we're gonna go to a video. We're gonna listen to Dr. Charles Clency with Mahalia Jackson, and we'll be right back. Let me get this going on here. All right, let me make sure I got this right. Thank you all for waiting. Here we go. I'm gonna play this video. And the name of this song is Let There Be Peace on Earth. All right, here we go.
In Berlin, the night was perfect. Again, the audience overwhelmed. They were standing on the balcony steps, sitting on the floor, leaning up against the pillars with their eyes closed, transported by the gospel songs and the Lord's Prayer.
Hi.
Be peace on earth and let it be again with me.
Hi. You're in bad. You don't know why you're here.
What would you like me to do?
Nothing.
You're calling me like if I could do something. I don't know what to do. There's nothing I can do.
What does this mean? I can get a lot.
You get because notifications is on your phone. You have to turn off notifications so you won't get that.
How?
A magazine writer once said, I never believed in God, but when you sing, it gives me goosebumps. Those ain't no goosebumps, she said. That's your soul speaking. and you don't even know it's there.
Everything that pops up, you could go and I don't know what pops up, so you're gonna have to turn it off. See how it says no, that should be off. That's all. You got to do it until all of it. Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to get that out the way since everybody waited for us to get started. So we have the one and the only Dr. Charles Clency on board with us, and we're going to do a trip down memory lane with you. So let's start here. So that is a very appropriate song for the time. Tell me how that was being wherever that platform was that you were playing for Mahalia Jackson. Tell me a little bit about that.
That rehearsal, Eric, was in Europe. We were free, had a little time, so Mahalia suggested that we do a little rehearsal, and that was the song that she chose for rehearsal. The person you saw standing there with her, next to her, was Gwen Leitner, who was pianist. I served as her organist. And then right after that rehearsal, you can see where it moves into the camera moves into a performance setting of the same song.
Yes. And was you on the organ on the?
So we didn't. Yes, I was on the
Okay.
organ in that song, and Gwen was at the piano. But we rehearsed very seldom because we do it. The music was she do it, but every now and then she would like to warm up, just to keep herself together and uh, just to be on top of things. But generally, she knew her music well. We knew the music, and there was just a little rehearsal. In the rehearsals that were held, I did most of the piano, most of the music, uh, and accompanied her. And then in the actual performances, I was always at the organ.
Wow. So since I'm glad that you mentioned piano. So as it relates to piano and organ, uh, when you first started playing or being a musician in the church, what was your first instrument of choice? Was it organ or was it piano, and why?
Piano.
Piano.
And it was because it was not a choice. It was just my mother began piano lessons, and I took piano lessons at the age of 6, and then gradually moved to the organ about the age of 11 or 12. But I already had a good keyboard background from having had 5, 6 years of piano lessons. And it was at the church where we were, where I took lessons and where I worshiped Morning Star Baptist Church, which is still going and which is still thriving there on the south side of Chicago. So the piano lessons was just the actual way to go.
Okay.
So we took
Wow.
piano lessons and then switched to organ when I was 12. And by 13, I was organist for the church. And most of the time from that point on, years were spent with the organ. I played piano and organ because I had a good piano background, but organ was the instrument of choice. And all of the positions in churches where I worked were with the organ.
Wow. Well, we got a lot of work to do, and I should have said this before. Whenever someone prepares to go on a journey, they begin to equip themselves with the necessary tools that will be essential for the journey. So I want you to know that mentally, I'm at the behind the desk mentally, and I have a pen in my hand, and I'm mentally equipping myself for this journey so that I can be able to bath and all that's going to go for. And again, of African American culture. I'm a student of gospel music, and I say student very proudly because I will always study, because I never want to reach the point that I feel like I know it all, because there's always some room to grow.
True, very true. Everybody, all of us.
Oh yeah. All right, so let's jump in. Okay, so you're from Chicago.
Yes, born in
Okay.
Chicago.
Okay. Now let's just jump a little bit away from. No, let's start with mornings. No, where we talked about morning. Let's start with Hyde Park. So tell me about Hyde Park.
Actually, I played for several churches at the same time.
Okay.
Hyde Park, Hyde Park probably was church because the broadcast was at 10 o'clock. Church was located at 51st Street, about Calumet, a block west of King Drive, South Park then. And I was at Hyde Park for the broadcast, only for the broadcast. Macy Woods was music director, and Reverend Chester Beatty was the pastor of the church.
Is that him right there?
And
Can you see my screen?
I see your screen, but I don't. Oh yes,
Okay.
yeah. You're right in front of him, in front of his face. But that's Chester Beatty,
Okay.
and yeah, that's Reverend Chester Beatty. So he must have passed away while I was gone. I was away from Chicago between 1979 and 2003. So he, along with a lot of people, have gone. They're not around anymore. And Maceo was some music before he was preaching. In fact, Maceo began preaching during our time at Hyde Park.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I must have gone there. Yeah, I must have gone there from Morningstar. Then I was at Baptist Temple Church of God in Christ. I would play at Hyde Park then. There were many churches between the hours of 6, 4, 5, 6, up till 10 o'clock where I played, because Morningstar was my morning church, and then all the many broadcast services were held after that between 3 and midnight.
Wow.
So Hyde Park would have been the last church at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
Very popular broadcast. So many singers, well-known singers, came through Hyde Park. Doris Sykes, Herbert Williams, Melvin Smothers, because that was the choir at that church that really evolved from the Southside Community Choir, which would be equivalent to the Thompson Community Singers in popularity today. Our community choir was direct, went to Hyde Park later. They evolved from the Southside Community Choir to Hyde Park Bible Church later. And then after that, Father Hayes organized his church, Bishop Anderson Redeemer organized their church, and various churches came out of that time at Hyde Park. And many of the singers went different ways. Herbert Williams went with Father Hayes, and Doris Sykes and Melvin Smothers went with Reverend Woods at the New Christian Tabernacle Church Baptist. And there weren't that many broadcast services on, but maybe perhaps one an hour. And then as the 60s went through and the 70s came and the 80s went, more and more churches were broadcasting.
Gotcha.
Very, very, very historic time, very active time with church work. Gospel music was really, really popular art, becoming a popular art form. And there were up and the thing had been groups. Many groups were organized, and then groups went into choirs, and various soloists had always been around and very popular. But from the soloists went to the groups and to the choirs and broadcast, it was very busy time. Churches that are popular now or became popular later, many of them didn't exist at that time. So it was just a real prevalent and prominent time. We were all students. We were all students of gospel music. I was learning how to play gospel. I couldn't play too fast. If it was too fast, I couldn't play Pentecostal rhythms and tempos. I couldn't keep up with because I was more classically trained. Gospel was my culture, but I also had an academic background where I read music and played a lot of the serious music, quote unquote serious.
Got you.
And
Got you.
and it was just a really very wonderful time to be alive and to be learning and listening to good gospel singers and learning how to play gospel music.
Got you,
So
got you. So look, so we gotta make a stop. Okay, let's go to Antioch. I'm gonna take a quick musical intermission and place a very rare selection with you at the organ. And when I tell you the first time I heard this particular number, I was at all. I just couldn't believe that in the '60s you were ramming up the organ like this. So let's take a listen to this here and we'll be right back. Let's see. Let me do this first. All right. So 7. Okay. Uh, all right. Here we go.
okay.
We cannot see in the future. We cannot see through the dark light. We cannot see the hurry. Open on Monday, on Tuesday, he is able to carry your load. He can see down the road.
I think that's one thing that I think about gospel music. I think that gospel music it stays relevant. You know, no matter the time is relevant because there is a very important message in that song. No matter what you're going through, just walk on by faith because the Bible even talks about the importance of faith. So tell me, how was it being at Antioch with Kenneth Morris, who is credited for introducing the Hammond organ to the African American church? So tell me how that was actually playing organ in the church alongside with someone that actually introduced it to the African American church.
I didn't realize I just really did not know, because I guess I was too young to know, the greatness of Kenneth Morris and what he meant to gospel music across the country. A publisher, arranger, composer, and and a choir director and a pianist, and uh, just an icon. So it was just, for me at that time, it was just another person I was working with. And that was in the early 60s. I left Morning Star and went to Antioch around 61, 62. And he was phenomenal. I learned a lot without knowing that I was learning. Just being with him, because he was a director. I was not a director, and I had no choirs. I had never directed. So I felt very submissive and very, uh, I was very impressed with him as a person at Antioch. He had, Antioch was a large church with about 5 or 6 choirs. They had about 2,000 on Sunday morning, and he was director of only one of the choirs, accompanied by wife Nisi. And I want to start, not want to start, Antioch is 65. I was there 3 years, 62 to 65, and went to Father Hayes is 65. So Antioch was just a real strong pillar, a church pillar with Reverend Daniel and the many choirs. I played for all of the choirs on Sunday morning. I was the organist for the church. So I played for all of the choirs. I rehearsed with 2 or 3 of them. Young adult choir and angelic choir, which Kenneth Morris had, the male chorus, senior choir, and then the WN that year choir. So it was a real experience being there. And I don't think I realized where I had been until I had left. When I went to Father Hayes, of course, at Father Hayes was sort of the one choir. And that
Well,
was my first position as minister.
before we go there, I wanna tread a little bit more at Antioch. But let me. Can you see my background?
Is that Reverend Daniel? Yes,
Is
it
that him?
is.
How did it
Yeah,
feel? How did it feel to see him today? Well, a picture of him like right now.
you're just a fantastic guy. So now it seems strange because he would be now probably over 100 years
Wow.
old. So I can't imagine him any other way except 45 years old. But he was a powerhouse. He had come here from I think he had come from Indiana or Tennessee. I'm sure he lived in both places, but I'm not sure where he had come directly. But he came to Chicago. It took it by storm with
Okay.
day program on Sunday mornings. Actually, every morning. He was a DJ every morning for half an hour, and then Sunday morning he had the church service. The early morning service was broadcast, and he was
Wow.
another C.L. Franklin when it came to preaching.
Wow.
And the church was packed. Yeah, he was just
Dr.
a
Clency.
powerhouse. He walked the benches, by the way.
You know, I'm
Oh
so
yeah, he
enjoying.
walked the benches.
I'm so. I don't want it to seem like I'm cutting you off. It's probably a delay, but it's just a honor to actually be going down this path with you. But when I said I wanted to tread a little bit at Antioch, because I kind of wanted to resurrect or resurface or kind of shed light on how the gospel choir was definitely different in the church, because before gospel music, I mean, you know, they didn't call it, gospel music. So you had different choirs in the church that served for different uh, uh, purposes. So
Yes,
could you kind
that,
of elaborate on that
yeah,
for me?
yeah. Yeah, certainly. That was a pattern in all the churches, especially the large churches, many Baptist churches. Antioch had 4 or 5 choirs, and each choir represented a different style. You had the young adult choir that did mostly modern gospel music as today. And then you have the senior choir. The senior choir did spirituals and anthems. That's all they sang. So my appreciation for the major anthems came from Morning Star and from Antioch, both Baptist churches. And then you had the other choirs that were traditional gospel. The W in that your choir, then you had Kenneth Morris's choir, they did gospel of various types in various decades. So Antioch Church had many different musical styles represented on a Sunday morning. And being a large church, it accommodated all these choirs, plus
Wow.
packed audiences, packed congregation. So there was a balcony. You had two choirs in a balcony. Then you had a choir under the balcony on the first floor. Then you had a
Wow.
choir that was in the pulpit behind the summer. By the way, Reverend Daniel was a very highly political figure in the city of Chicago. He built a lot of institutions, schools, hospital, senior citizens home, another church out in the Alga Garden area around 130th Street. And he was very political. He, I think, served as head of the Chicago Police Department. He was a good friend of Reverend Martin Luther King, who I saw in person.
Wow.
Reverend Daniel and Reverend King were very close friends. And so Reverend King, Martin Luther King, would come to our services and sit right in front of the organ. The organ was on the floor, right in front of the pulpit area. So I would sit always at the organ, looking up at Reverend Daniels or Martin Luther King or any other ministers who were right there. So the organ was very close. I had very good proximity with Reverend Daniel and Martin Luther King and others who were there as well. So Reverend Daniel was quite a figure in Chicago. He must have passed away in the early 90, around 2000, maybe 1999, 2000, 2001, I think early 2000. But
Wow.
just a tremendous personality. So that experience at Antioch was very meaningful to my development as
Wow.
I proceeded from there on into other churches.
Wow. That now, thank you so much for that pictorial expression. Well, the way that you conveyed it, that will always be uh, embedded in my memory. How you looked up and saw Reverend Daniels and Martin Luther King. What an honor. So, look, I want to just show the people. This is very rare. I'm gonna get off of Antioch. I might as well say I am working on a book, and of course we're gonna get a chance to talk about your upcoming ventures and things that you got going on. But I want to show. So we'll be talking. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about the iconic Dr. Charles Clency in the book. But however, I just want to show you all. This is actually 45. This is a 78. Wait, yeah, no, 45. This is the 45, and this is actually uh, what you just heard. So it was two songs. There was "Walk On" by Faith, and you had "Nearer My God to Thee." But okay, so as we get off of Antioch, I just want to
But
recommend.
actually, we had Antioch. Can you hear me?
I can
Antioch.
hear you.
That those two songs are from a whole album, a large LP album that had about 10 or 12 songs. So
Wow,
I never even knew that existed, the 45 that you existed, because
wow,
what we recorded was those two songs were part of 10 or 12 songs on a large album by
wow.
Ida Malone.
Yes,
So there are a lot of famous soloists who, well, famous in terms of Antioch's community.
yes,
Betty Finley, and Irene Oates, and you heard Norman singing Walk On by Faith. So there were about 60 singers from about 300 singers. Put, they selected those 60 singers to sing those uh, 10 or 12 songs on an album. uh,
Wow.
when they went into the studio, because the studio would not have held two, three, four singers. So, but they
Wow.
had uh, directing that would have been Henry Fitzpatrick and Kenneth Morris, and
Wow.
I was the
Wow.
organist.
Yes. So right before we move forward, I want to recommend, I know you all probably can't see it because my camera isn't the best, but I want to recommend a book. It's entitled Slave Songs of the United States. It was actually compiled, published in 1867, and it literally, this book here is a beautiful interpretation of the the roots of our heritage, of our tradition, the things that we went through, our ancestors went through, and it's beautifully and very colorfully documented in this book. Three people together was able to put this together, and we have this, and we're able to just see all type of beautiful spirituals. And I mean, these lyrics are definitely definitely touching. And I got the honor to actually hear you play every hour in the day, and it's just a chilling song to me. One cold freezing morning, I'll lay this body down, I'll pick up my cross and follow my Lord all around my Father's throne. And every hour of the day, I'll cry, holy, holy, my Lord. I just think that's so phenomenal. So, and I think that you did a wonderful job kind of keeping the heritage or keeping spirituals afloat. But we're going to take another musical intermission, and we're going to listen to you on the organ at Universal Kingdom with Dr. Father Charles G. Hayes. Now, a little bit before, as I get that, so in 1962, Father Charles G. Hayes, he had a group and he called them the Hayes Specials. And well, sucker, would I say. They had All of My Burdens and Time is Winding Up. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the first presentation that Dr. Charles G. Hayes ever rendered on wax, well, vinyl, should I say. So let me pull up this song, and we're going to listen to this. And this is the one and only Cynthia Price on lead. All right, so that's that. So let's get to it. Hopefully you all, let me take the time. Mom, I see you. Malice, I see you. Pastor Joris Walker, I see you. Tyree Foster, all you, Smitty Smith, Dr. Patricia Dunlap, I love you so much. Kevin Peabody, so many. Henry Jackson, the iconic Henry Jackson is on here. Jay Williams, man, he's doing wonderful things. Pauline, so many people, I'm not gonna name any more names, but let's take a listen to How Did You Feel When You Come Out of the Wilderness? Now I wish I could just play that on and on and on, but I'm gonna just stop it there. Listen, it is nothing like a good old gospel song that gets right down in your spirit. And the wilderness has so many meanings. Like your whatever your wilderness is what they're referring to in that song. And I think is a very wonderful song. Now, is that a spiritual?
That was a spiritual in its initial form,
Okay.
but it has been recorded many times by many people, and it has evolved from that form as a spiritual to gospel to a gospel song. But
Okay.
it, it's been recorded many times. By the way, you mentioned Universal Kingdom of Christ, uh, but and then you played Cosmopolitan Church of Prayer. One church with two different names actually changed from Universal Kingdom to Cosmopolitan Church of Prayer in 1968. And so then you were going to play uh, Charles Hayes Specials, and that was a choir with Cynthia Price in my time around 1966. So I just want to clarify that so people won't think that that was Reverend Hayes in 1962.
Oh, thank you
But
so much. No, yeah,
it's okay.
so yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't make it clear to you all. So that I was referring in 1962 was probably his first time recording,
Yeah,
and in
right.
1966 is when Dr. Clency came over and they did that, and it was actually released on Checker Records. And I must give honor where credit is due. That was uploaded by the one and only Jay Williams. So thank you so much for your upload. I definitely want to give you credit for uploading that, and it was released in 1966. Now, real briefly, tell me about your experience with the world-renowned the Warriors. Tell me about your experience at the early stage.
The choir became the Warriors after I left. I was there until 1976, and I think they became the Warriors around 79 or 80 after Jesus Can Work It Out. I taught Jesus Can Work It Out to the choir, but after I left, it was the key was everything was changed. It's a song that was composed by George Jordan, but it was changed uh, to when the Warriors sang it, and Diane Williams did it. Diane Williams was not at the church when I left. It was sung by Herbert Williams, and then Diane Williams came along and made a different song completely with Warriors. And I believe Chi, who was actually Dr. Patricia Dunlap, is on the drums. But she was the drummer during my time, fantastic musician, along with Edward Weston on the piano. And so it was just a really tremendous team who worked with all of us the Cosmopolitan, the Voices of Cosmopolitan, actually, they were called the Voices of Cosmopolitan. That recorded and performed it every 3 times on Sunday morning, same way you heard them on Sunday night at 11 o'clock was the way you started on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, and then again at 8 o'clock. And it was just a tremendous experience for all of us, a learning experience. And that paved the way for the present day Warriors that became really prominent during Father Hayes' lifetime. So, and
So I'm a,
they're still going big, even.
so I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I don't mind being transparent. So
Okay.
the reason why I said warriors, sometimes I don't want to jack up Cosmo Cosmopolitan. So sometimes I just say warriors because I don't want to jack it up. You know,
Well, that's
sometimes I have
okay. Everybody
difficulties.
knows.
So
Everybody knows the Warriors.
yeah, so I just wanted.
Everybody knows the Warriors. So
Yeah. So I think that you did a wonderful job with setting the standard, uh, the foundation for what was to come. And you really did an impeccable job. As I interview people, people really are just at all at your musicianship and the way that you controlled and conduct the choir and taught and all of that good things. So I mean, you definitely are a living legend. You are true definition of a living legend, and we're so excited
Thank
that
you.
we're so excited to have this opportunity once again. So as we're moving along now, so you started a group, well, a choir by the name of the Voices of Melody, and if I'm not mistaken, this is your first album with the Voices of Melody that I'm holding in my hand. We sing joyfully. Am I right or wrong?
Correctly. Now sing we joyfully.
Okay.
Now sing we the joy. An anthem. An
So,
anthem by Gordon Young.
so tell me about the Voices of Melody. I know that Gloria Cotton, I think she was on. C. Malice and more. By the way, Malice, you are so loved. I mean, I so appreciate your contributions. I think that everybody has a very strategic uh, 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 way or strategic purpose, and I think that your purpose is outstanding because you help so many people in their bereavement hour, and I want to give kudos to you. I mean, I literally was so honored to embrace and get a chance to witness you with the iconic Eddie Robinson at the organ, and and you used to do a wonderful job with Raymond Raspberry's "Touch Someone Live Today." Don't start me because I get to tearing up, but we love you. So let's talk a little bit about the Voices of Melody.
Well,
Why did you? What was the conception of the Voices of Melody?
well, there were about three choirs that were very prominent in Chicago at the time the Voices were formed. There were the Thompson Community Singers, Robert Wooten Corner Ensemble, and the Treadwells of the West Side. Southside Community Choir had been prominent, but they were no more. So the Voices of Melody filled that particular need to sing languages and motets and madrigals and masses. They sang everything, and gospel, of course, and spirituals and folk songs. Every choral genre was sung by the Voice of Melody. Top-notch singers, professional singers, people like Gloria Cotton, Miles Armour, Barnett, Jerry Bratton, uh, George Mays, Evelyn Duncan from the Duncan-Ayres. They were all in the Voice of Melody, about 60 singers that were top notch. And they made me work. We were just a wonderful team together. And I had to be, but that's what I really probably developed, I think, as a co-director by having that group. Uh, I had to really prepare and be, uh, be sure that that group was challenged. And they were there. They sang, they came to rehearsal every week. They were just a powerful group. I wish I had stayed in Chicago, but I had to leave to do graduate work in conducting for the Voice of Melody, and then I ended up not even coming back to Chicago until after many of them had gone.
Wow.
But it was a move. So theater, uh, they were just a really all self-governing group. They had a board of directors, they had a business manager, musicians. Leo Davis was one of our musicians. Franz Tyson, Mark Davis, Edward Weston, who also played with us at uh, House of Politics with Father A's. So it was just a really tremendous time. Being with the Voices from 1962 to 19. Actually, I came back to Chicago in 03, and they had stopped singing about maybe in the early 90s. but we came back together and did several reunion concerts. But they were just nothing like them, nothing like them. And
Well,
you could hear you can hear them on the recordings.
well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a listen to a very timeless presentation that you all so beautifully and so soulfully really rendered, and it literally stands the test of time because the music is classical to me. So we're gonna listen to that. It was one more thing I wanted to say. Dr. Clency, if you can, when I play it, can you hit mute on your mic so that it won't be distorted? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we're about to
Okay.
play it. Right. Let me make sure I got it up. Okay. So that's that. All right. And you all did a wonderful job. So moving along. So I want you to speak to today's generation as it relates to music, as it relates to African American culture, gospel music. What do you think are some of the essential tools that we need to have longevity and to keep this wonderful art form afloat?
Oh, I think that it would be helpful, most helpful, first for the average or typical African American musician, especially the church tradition, to have knowledge of all genres, to go to school, to get knowledge, to get musical knowledge, to read music, to embrace all forms, all styles of music, to diversify. I think that every musician needs to be aligned or associated with somebody or some core organization that can benefit, that can help, that can mentor, that can expose that person to a greater presence, musical presence. I think that many of our musicians are content where they are, and many of them feel that they have everything they need and don't need to go any further. So I think that I think it would be beneficial for a musician to be exposed to mentors, to music classes, to learn to develop beyond where they are.
Wow. Okay, I like that. So you have the book, the Handbook of Gospel Music. Tell me why. Why did you write this book? Why did you write it?
I really wanted to inspire. First, I think that our generation, younger generations, future generations, uh, don't know or won't know about this great period of time we live in. Later on, I think that the average musician may think that that's all there is during the time of their lifespan. I think that I think that there's a tremendous history that goes back to 1920, 1930, 1940, up to now. It is fantastic. Uh, this whole scope of church music and black music and gospel music in particular. It is fantastic in terms of the talented composers, arrangers, musicians. It is fantastic. The list goes on and on and on. And I don't think enough of future musicians will know these names unless they're lifted up. So my book speaks to that type of history. It lifts up the names of the trendsetters of each decade, every 20 years or so. There are at least 4 or 5 different time periods of gospel from Charles Titley's time in 1900 through William Brewster, Thomas Dorsey, Roberta Martin, Jonathan Morris, Andre Crouch, and Edward Hawkins, and Kirk Franklin, on through John P. Key, all the various top musicians, not Kirk Franklin, but the other Kirk.
Uh,
There's so
uh,
many names, and I think, hmm,
no, I was
I
trying to
think
think the other
that
Kirk.
our musicians, yeah. Anyway, he's a contemporary of Hezekiah Walker and
Oh,
Richard
Kirk Carr. Kirk Carr.
Smallwood, Kirk Carr, yeah, and Smallwood and uh, Hezekiah Walker. Those are top names, and I think that generally the people who are prominent now in the ages of between the ages of 20 and 40 or 25 and 50 know only a few names. They don't know. I don't think they know the pioneers, those people who paved the way during Mahalia Jackson's time, Little Lucy Matthews, and then Margaret DeRoe out in California, and Eddie Robertson in Georgia used to be in Fort Lauderdale. Uh, he's on time of God. I call it He's on time of God because he wrote that. There's so many different names, and everyone is mentioned in my book, along with their composition titles, along with what they are known for, when they lived, what they did, where they were, east or west. And I might have probably put too much in the book, but I think it's just good for every musician to have its titled Handbook of Gospel Music. And it's just that. It's a real handbook of gospel music. Groups, quartets, choirs, community choirs, church choirs. I think that we just need to really lift these names up all the preachers, especially Chicago broadcasted pastors, and when they were, what they did, where they broadcast, all of that is in this book. And so I think it will behoove all of us uh, to, uh, to know these things and to be blessed by this history. Were it not for the history that this rich history, we might not have what we have today. So I think just to know these things and to uh, embrace this will give us something to build on. And uh, especially as we seek diversity and versatility, uh, which of course is a new idea coming out of the 80s, from the 1975, the 1980, 85, 1990. During this time, we've had more musicians to become educated, more gospel musicians have become educated, not ever suggesting that we would lose our spiritual and our gospel background and history, but that we add on to it so that we are versatile, so that we can
Wow.
appreciate all kinds of Black church music.
Wow.
And there's a lot. There's a
Well,
lot.
you know
So
what? Well,
the book
yeah.
I just read.
So look, so pretty much the whole dynamics behind this particular presentation is to really just take time to say, Dr. Clency, thank you. Thank you for your sweat. Thank you for your tears. I mean, it's so much more that we didn't cover. I mean, it takes more than a lifetime to cover greatness, and I consider you greatness. So I believe that we did a wonderful job, just kind of packing at some of the things, the various things that you have been involved with. So I want to tell you, thank you so much.
Eric,
Uh,
Eric, let me just take this time to thank you for your ingenuity and your willingness to explore and expose us and keep us alive, keep history alive with all of us. You are doing a fantastic job. I marvel at your young age, as if you're 36 going on 75. You know so much already, and it's just wonderful. You inspire all of us. And so we are
wow.
indebted to you for your tremendous contribution to this art form we call Black church and Black gospel music. Thank you.
Wow. I appreciate it. I'm so honored. So I gotta just give a few names. Bob Maravich, thank you so much for all that you do. Bill Carpenter, of course, Richard Smallwood, thank you so much for the book that you rendered so beautifully. It's so many names that I can mention. Also, too, make sure if you don't have a copy, get the Handbook of Gospel Music. Leo Daniels, I want to give kudos to you for doing a wonderful job at Mississippi Boulevard in Memphis, Tennessee. Just a very, very wide selection of songs that you render, and you keep the community informed of our rich heritage. And I want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. So as we get out of here, I'm going to leave with Let There Be Peace on Earth, and we're going to listen to Mahalia Jackson one more time. And thank you so much, and we will be talking soon.
Let me walk with my brother. Once I came, let this be my song, the more to take me
in Berlin, the night was perfect. Again, the audience overwhelmed. They were standing on the balcony steps, sitting on the floor, leaning up against the pillars with their eyes closed, transported by the gospel songs and the Lord's Prayer.
Be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let be peace on earth, for peace God wanted to be. And God
A magazine writer once said to her, "I never believed in God, but when you sing, it gives me goosebumps." "Those ain't no goosebumps," she said. "That's your soul speaking, and you don't even know it's there."
Be peace on earth. Let this be the moment now. Every step I take, let this be my solemn vow. Take each moment, live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with
That is peace.
Just a little tired. I feel all right.
Charles, go get a doctor.
A doctor? I don't need no doctor.